Alright, hello everyone. So this is the kit review for Bygone Days as well as Devyat Rodion. Devyat Rodion requires a lot of explanation, but Ishmael one you can understand really fast. Just treat this as an uninvited applier as well as a HP healer. What uninvited does is that when the enemy dies, your killer, your team's killer of the enemy will heal SP. And then a random ally, which is the enemy, a random enemy, without this effect, gains X stacks of this effect. So this status will make it so that your team's killer of that enemy will heal SP. And then the status will spread to someone, an enemy, without this effect. And that enemy will also take more damage for every sinking on yourself. It's just straight up take more damage for every sinking. It's not like deal damage based on sinking or anything like that. It's the enemy will now take more damage for every sinking on yourself. So we have Butterfly, Echoes, Ruin, and Uninvited. So we have 4 different things to slap onto our enemies with the sinking team, and this is just not even including like Sinking Deluge or anything like that. This thing here looks really powerful just as an additional debuff for the sinking team's characters. And this debuff is really strong because it only reduces at turn end, meaning that if you apply this and you just punch the enemies to death, you get the whole team able to just like get benefits from it, because this is only reduced at turn end. So if this is at least like 2, it will be good enough, because just having 2 turns of this debuff is enough for you to do a bunch of extra damage based on the sinking on the enemy. So yeah, very nice to have. And also this Eagle has AoE if you get Gloom Rest, and also has more HP healing if you have Gloom Rest, and also applies Gloom Fragility this turn if you have Gloom Rest. So this Eagle is really quite strong because of the fragility, the count perhaps, the healing, the AoE, and also this new status that makes enemies take more damage. Hopefully this is going to be 2 uninvited, otherwise it's going to be a this turn only Eagle, which means that your Ishmael needs to go first in order to get the biggest value out of your Bygone Days, because she needs to apply 1 stack of the uninvited before all of her other teammates go and hit the enemy. So yeah, hopefully this is going to be 2. Hopefully the Gloom Frag is also quite significant, since this one is not next turn Gloom Frag, it is this turn Gloom Frag. Alright, so the last thing to talk about is the corrosion skill here. Corrosion skill actually has Echoes of the Mana on it, so that means that if you corrode this thing over here, you get a bunch of healing, you get 5 debuffs, including Uninvited and Gloom Frag, but you also inflict Echoes of the Mana next turn, and that will potentially allow you to apply this status before Otis even gets her skill tree. So yeah, this is quite interesting and it could be useful for Refraction Railway in some way or another, but we have to see the cost and the number of debuffs that all of these things apply. And then the last one is the Ego passive. Ego passive is as long as the enemy has Uninvited or any panic type changing effects. So Ruin or Echoes of the Mana, you will gain Clash Power. With Mola Ishmael, that's already super strong. And on hit against the said ally, you also heal SP for 1 ally with the this SP. This means that you can actually swap off your base Isang, your base Honglu, and your middle Assault, and you'll still get the SP heal from this source here. Yeah, your Ishmael will just hit enemies and then you heal allies with SP. Right, very nice. Overall, it's just such a simple Eagle to understand. You got SP healing, you got HP healing, you got Gloom Frag, and you just need to make sure you have Gloom Resonance. That's it. Alright, so moving on from this, I suspect that this Eagle is just straight up going to be slapped onto Mola Ishmael and nothing else. And then moving on to the harder one is going to be Devyat Rodion. This one is basically Charge Rupture. Yep, it's a Rupture character and it's based on Charge, but this Charge has a downside to it. This Career Trunk here, you will gain stacks every single turn, and at turn start you will gain a certain amount of stacks, and you gain stacks by using your skill 1, skill 2, and your counter skill, just like every other charge character except for the counter part, but whatever. Basically you gain your charges from those, and then after that you get raise minimum and maximum speed values at this stack. At this stack, you gain Clash Power up and Slash Damage up, very nice, because this character has 3 slashing abilities as well as the counter. And then the last part is, you take damage when you start using skills based on the stacks that you have. And on turn end, you also take additional damage based on the stacks that you have. Yep, you actually will start dying when you hit a certain amount of stacks over here. And depending on the number, this character could be really good or really bad. Alright, so what else does Career Trunk give you? Because this downside here is pretty damn bad. That means that the reward must be pretty good in order to make me want to do it, right? Career Trunk, it gives you a lot of stuff. It gives you coin power, Or you also have Rupture instead of the Career Trunk. So that is something interesting and something very cool. Next, you also get damage for every Career Trunk on self, coin power again, damage for Career Trunk, and then coin power again. So these two skills here will get extra damage, and you also get coin power, or you can have Rupture on the enemy instead of having the Career Trunk. So that is a very cool way of giving her some duplicity. She can just use the charge to give her the coin power, or she can use the Rupture applied by her allies, because she herself doesn't really apply that much Rupture from what I can see, and she can also get the coin power from that. Alright. So other things to mention is that if you have certain amounts of Career Trunk or less, you will gain additional Career Trunk here, here, and also here. All three skills here will give you Career Trunk really fast, as long as you're below a certain level of Career Trunk. And your skill tree, by right, if you're a charge character, your skill tree is where you spend the Career Trunk. Well, in this case, it doesn't spend, because you have to keep stacking so you can have the bad thing happen to you, so skill tree will not spend your Career Trunk. Instead, your skill tree will scale the Rupture count application of the Career Trunk, and also deal more damage at certain amount of Career Trunk. So skill 1, skill 2, and counter are for building up, and then skill 3 is for big damage output. And you also want to get some synergy with the Rupture, because this character's passive for the Rupture is really good. This on-use effect here might as well be a passive, because what it does is that it basically makes all of these Rupture skills on this character, like Rupture count and Rupture, disappear. But in exchange, you will be able to not consume target's Rupture count on hit if the target has certain amount of Rupture potency and count. For this, and for this. So all three skills of this character, except the counter, will not consume Rupture count if you are able to get a certain amount of it on the enemy. But if you do not hit that, instead you will be able to inflict your own Rupture potency and inflict your own Rupture count. So this character is quite interesting in that regard. But one more important thing here to make it very worth to run her in Rupture is that this character will also reuse its last coin on this skill tree here, and this skill tree thing over here, that reuse coin, is going to be the one where it scales with the Career Trunk. So you get to do this coin again twice, and if this one didn't stagger or defeat, you gain haste. Your fourth coin will reuse this coin exactly, so you get to do it again. You deal more damage on a fourth coin, and if this target is staggered or defeated, you will gain haste next turn. So this part here looks really powerful. The fact that I'm scaling of Career Trunk on damage, on coin power, and I'm also getting slash damage up from having a certain number of stacks, and clash power up, means that this character here is probably going to be a bonkers, strong clashing, strong damage output character who really wants Rupture in order to make her do even more damage. A little bit similar to a King. What this character wants is other people to really apply the Rupture for her, so she gets the full benefit, even though she might not be a very good Rupture maintainer herself. It's just that once you are able to maintain with the other characters, you get to feed her this special line over here that makes her now Rupture neutral. So it looks very cool in design, and basically this character is a charged Rupture character. And the downside here is that she is going to eventually hit this part here where you start dying. So how do you counteract that? You have to use your counter skill. At X plus Career Trunk, you activate Strategic Time Off instead. So that's how you go from this one to this one. And what happens is that this one is supposed to be a gain, this one is where you dump. So this skill here gives you a shield of Career Trunk % scaling and activates Strategic R&R mode. This is the passive, the unique status. So this unique status is one of a kind. There's no other thing like it. Basically, it makes you actually run away from the fight. And in chain battles, you instead substitute yourself with another ally. But if there is no one else, you leave. You never come back. Yep, you just straight up run away and you never come back. And this is only for chain battles. If you're not in a chain battle, I suspect you also just run away and never come back. So you went to get the milk and then you just forgot to come back. Alright? So what this character does is that you will go back to the realmost place in the backup unit's deployment order and you will swap in with that character. And then when eventually they die, perhaps, then you can come back in. That is a bit too slow in my opinion. So I don't think that this character is meant to really be run right now. I feel like she needs to have another character to swap in and out with her. So a second Devyat, for example, and you only have 70 members, for example, then what happens is that when Rodion swaps, there's only one character in your substitute slot. So you swap with that one, that one's also a Devyat, that Devyat will eventually build up and swap with Rodion, Rodion will go, Rodion will build up, swap, go blah 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 and repeat and repeat and repeat. So I think that that is the ideal situation for this character in the future, but right now they just have not released another character to swap in with this character, so she's going to feel a bit clunky at first just cause of the retreat mechanic. And then besides that, for the retreat mechanic, she will also return with the same amount of HP and SP. But remember, you are taking the damage before you leave. So you will be slightly lower in HP and SP. And you also will reset your SP to 0 if you had less than 0 SP. And you will not cleanse all Career Trunk, because Career Trunk will not expire upon retreat. It is stored instead, even though there's a eliminate all effects on self part over here. This eliminate all effects is something like your sinking, the tremor, all the fragility on you are all gone after you come back. And what happens with this Career Trunk is that your stack does not expire upon retreat. It is stored, but it is instead halved whenever you retreat with this passive active here. So build up, build up, build up. Skill 1, skill 2, and counter to build up. And then skill 3 to get some big benefits. We build up too much. Time to counter and then peace out. After you peace out, maybe in the future you come back, maybe you just don't come back ever again. And if you do come back, you will halve the Career Trunk value. And the second passive here is also, if you are fast, you get Career Trunk % scaling for HP. And also upon retreating, you apply Clash Power up to 2 allies next turn, prioritizing these substituted units first. And it lasts for your Career Trunk stacks on yourself. So this character is basically a charge character, loves Rupture, and also has a limit. She cannot stay too long. I suspect that that is the trade-off for this character being perhaps very, very powerful, because look at all this scaling, look at all this coin power, and look at that really powerful on-use effect where you are basically Rupture neutral as long as you have a certain amount of Rupture on the enemy. All of this is still dependent on the numbers of this ID, but pretty much this character looks really, really powerful already. It just requires a lot of micromanagement, and in the future, I hope there will be other characters that can also retreat so that we can have a swap in, swap out kind of mechanic with Rodion and someone else. So yeah, that is probably the situation right now. They are going to release a future ID that also wants to swap, and then Devyat will actually become a lot more useful in that time. Otherwise, right now, we can only treat her as a burst character. You throw her into the Rupture team, make her go hard and fast, and after that, oops, too much, we overloaded the box, sorry, I gotta peace out. If it's a regular encounter, peace out forever. So you can only clear the rest of the fight with 5 characters instead of 6. And then for a chain battle, she also pieces out. Well, too bad, we don't have any swappers, so you will have to use another 6 slot character to actually just go and unga bunga. I think one cool thing is that actually, I think if we are using a Rupture team comp, we actually have enough characters to afford a swap. You can swap in like your Talisman Sinclair, you can swap in your 7th Association Heathcliff or something like that. Like there's a lot of different IDs that you can actually swap in for the Rupture team comp. So yeah, it could be quite cool to get some kind of funky mechanic in the future that will synergize with Rodion, but at the same time, if they don't do it, then we treat her as a burst character. After we bursted with you, we swap you out and we put in like a Talisman Sinclair or something to just, I don't know. Talisman Sinclair coming late is actually kind of ass, so maybe we swap in someone else who's kind of adequate, maybe like 7 Heath, or I don't know, 7 Ryoshu or 7 Otis. I actually don't know yet, because I need to really go and see all of the Rupture team comps first. But yeah, this character, really, really cool design. Can't wait to see more of it. They're finally exploring more stuff for the chain battles, and this is all part of Kim Ji-hoon's plan to make all future content become more chain battle focused. And I think one of the goals for chain battles was that they wanted us to see more phases of the boss and to use more IDs. Right, so this is supposed to be one of the ways that we will forcefully use our IDs by swapping in and out. Okay, alright, so that's pretty much it for this entire banner coming up. This one probably a must get for your Ishmael, because it's just going to be good value, has no competition, you're only fighting with Roseate Desire and only fighting with Kapot, and those do not help sinking at all. So this is just going to be your default one, I think. And then for Devyat Rodion, well, she looks pretty strong for Rupture. It's just that ADD Gregor passive cannot, sorry, not passive, Spark Discharge cannot be triggered using this character. So I really don't know how easy or how hard it is to actually run her with the Rupture team comp. You will need to have a lot of other characters with positive Rupture count in order to offset this character not applying any Rupture count for the first few turns. And then after you hit a certain amount, then she will start being Rupture neutral forever, and then that will be when you pop off. Alright, so that's it. If you have any other questions or if I made any mistakes, feel free to comment below, and I shall see you guys in the next video. Bye bye.